Hello and welcome to the Bones Horror Podcast. This is episode 105. Speak No Evil. How I'm looking forward to this one. Tonight we have with us Ewan.
Hello.
And Jess.
Hello.
And no Larry, who has left us with this film to review. His pick. So it's so what we've been up to. I have been pretty busy. Been to a music festival and watched some very old 80s bands. I've been watching lots and lots of horror films. More than enough recently, actually. Been pretty much every day. And I've made my way through Hellraiser 4, 5, 6, 7 and the remake. And I've just started 8, I think. Gradually they're getting worse.
I haven't seen anything beyond 1, so I don't have a reference there. But
yeah,
does it get better?
I really like 4, but I think after 4 they gradually get worse. So we won't make you watch them, Ewan. So what have you been up
to? Not much. I mean, I've had this week off, so I've had a lovely. Actually, popped down to towards the West Country. So I went down to Hamble. When my parents
I was there yesterday. Yeah, I was there yesterday, the day before. Yeah.
What were you doing there?
Testing. I was working. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Right. God. Right on the square, if you can call it that. So, yeah, it's nice down there.
Yeah, it's really nice. So it's all by the river and everything.
Yeah.
So I just spent the week just sort of reading, writing, not doing much. I'm back on work. Back to work tomorrow. So it's been nice. Nice.
You, Jess?
Not a lot. Just work. Preparing for holiday. So I go away next weekend. So yeah.
So you won't be around for how long are you going for? A week, 2 weeks?
1 week.
1 week.
Yeah.
Nice. Anywhere nice?
Norwegian fjords.
Oh.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
That sounds great.
Probably won't see the Northern Lights this time of year, but never know.
Right, never know. You never know. We speak about this film.
Sure.
I guess.
A Danish family visit. Right. Okay.
Deep sighs from both of you.
A Danish family visits a Dutch family they met on holiday. What was supposed to be a bloody lovely weekend slowly starts unraveling as the Danes try to stay polite in the face of unpleasantness. They just need to be able to say no.
Yeah.
To the food, of course, and to love. Salute.
Dear Louise, Bjørn, and Agnes, how are you? We were just talking the other day how nice it was spending time with you this summer. We would love to invite you to come to visit us.
Yeah, I'll go over there straight away.
Sorry for the mess. It's gonna get much worse. Come on.
Yes.
He's been cooking all day. He's making wild boar.
This is for you.
I'm a vegetarian.
I insist. I insist.
And that's where I'm going to leave that, because that's where you say no. Let's start saying no. Start saying fucking no.
Yeah, I found even that trailer quite triggering. Back to watching it. It's funny, this film, because I think it's a film I simultaneously love and hate at the same time.
Yeah.
It's one of those films that I loved watching, but I don't think I'll ever want to watch again.
Exactly.
Purely because it's kind of, I don't know, it's in some ways it's more of a psychological thriller than a horror. It's kind of a psychological thriller that eventually turns into a horror, I think. But yeah, you get these these Danish this Danish family on holiday in Italy, having a lovely time, doing whatever, and then they meet this Dutch couple who apparently very nice, even though from the first they're a bit odd. Let's face it. This couple is just a tad odd. But they have a lovely time in Italy, and then this Dutch couple invite, oh, why don't you come round to Holland and come to our house in the country? And then they do eventually with their kid, and then the film proceeds in this kind of a sort of progression of microaggressions in a way. It's kind of these like little things that happen continuously, little weird happenings, like in the trailer where the mother of the Danish family has said from the beginning that she's a vegetarian, and the Dutch family cook wild boar, and it proceeds very much like that, and it's so unnerving throughout, to the point where I had to. It's only just over 90 minutes, this film, something like that, and
80 minutes too long.
yeah. I honestly had to pause it about 3 times because I had to collect myself, because it's so sort of especially with like my strand of social anxiety that I have, it's just looking too deeply into things, and you realize, of course, that there is a hidden motive behind these like little aggressions that this Dutch couple sort of facilitate, and it's a scary film throughout. I mean, it's funny. I mean, you brought it up about the family, or the dad in particular, not saying no to certain things, and if he just said no and said let's leave it, then the family would be safe and it would be all okay. It's funny though, because I think that I kind of recognize that level of politeness. I think it's a very kind of almost middle class thing, where you're just sort of like, you're terrified of offending people, and you really don't want to rock the boat or anything like that. And I think this is very much the case with this Danish family. They don't want to offend the Dutch couple, even though they're probably psychopaths. But in any case, so I think it's more of a comment on that. I think where it falls down is that I think it's a little too intense, to the point where I
No
couldn't
fun.
really enjoy it. I actually think, because I read an interview with the director, and he said that he initially envisioned it as a comedy, but then he sort of looked at the darker elements, and then eventually made it into a horror. But I actually think the film would have been improved if there was more humor in it to relieve some of the tension which you feel throughout, and it's never really relieved, because it's a very, very nihilistic ending, very dark, very depressing, and very, very horrible. And I think it's funny because Lawrence actually brought up, when we're about to, when we're about to watch this film, that there's already an American remake in the works, starring James McAvoy as the father. And but I wonder if the Americans will be able to capture the nihilism, essentially, because I think that's something that the sort of European cinema can get away with much better than Hollywood, because Hollywood, I think, is just what wants to put a positive spin on it or have some kind of hope at the end, whereas the Europeans just don't. It reminded me a bit of like that there's similar levels of pessimism in things like Funny Games, which we've reviewed before. I mean, this film is clearly very influenced by Funny Games, but also Martyrs, the French film.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny though, because I was watching this. Oh, this reminds me of Martyrs, but I mean, I really don't like Martyrs, because it's sort of
It's horrible.
you basically just put through sort of nausea for about something like 2 hours. But I liked Speak No Evil much better, because I think it sort of lives in the tension rather than the sort of nauseous aspect of it. So I think that's where it has the level above Martyrs in some way. But I think it's a very good film, personally. But again, as I say, I have no wish to watch it again, I think.
Well, so this was made 2022. Did you watch it on Shudder? Is that, yeah. That's where I watched it. And I think I watched it. It must have watched it when it came out because it felt old to me when I watched it again. Like older than 2022. So I must have watched it straight away. Had a budget of 2.8 million euros. And a box office of 631,000. I can't imagine a lot of people going out to watch it. I don't know.
Well, it's confusing because I think it was immediately picked up by Shudder after. I think it premiered at Sundance, and I think Shudder picked it up. So it's I don't know how much it in terms of streaming what happened there, but yeah.
So what do you think on Rotten Tomatoes? I'm going to ask Jess first because, like,
Oh god.
Remember, there's a lot of people like Dan who would watch this because this film's a hot pick, isn't it? This is a Dan special all over it.
So like 80 something.
Yeah, I reckon it's in the 70s somewhere.
Yes.
84.
So 84, which is a lot more than the Meg 2. Well, I got some bullet points about this. I wrote my usual stuff down. I would never ever be in that situation that they found themselves in on many levels, and I found the parents just to be so fucking stupid.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
And every, you get a feeling for things in life, and I kind of try. I'm a lot older than you guys, so I try and trust my judgment. It's the same with work and stuff. Sometimes you get a bit of a feeling, and you got to go with it, and you have to say no. You just have to. And I don't think these guys. It was just yes the whole way, wasn't it? We'll go with it, and you could tell they were both parents. They're the Danish ones or they're Dutch ones. They were mental. So I mean, all those sitting and they're driving. There's a scene where they're driving away and they decide to go back for a teddy bear or something.
Yeah, that was.
I nearly turned off the film then.
Yeah.
As soon as they turned around, I was like, half hour in, I'm done.
Are you mad?
It was frustrating. I mean, but I think.
And then they go off and have a good shout. Oh yeah, that'll sort out your problem. Let's go and shout at the top of it wherever they were.
Yeah. But I think that's the interesting thing is that that family is clearly the Danish family is clearly almost guided by the dad. The dad is sort of almost subtly patriarchal in that he's the one who kind of wanted to go on the trip. Really, I don't think the mother really wanted to go, and he also clearly has this.
He ain't got a lot of friends, I don't think.
No, I don't think he has a lot of friends, and I think he wants to be seen as a man or like sort of an alpha male type or a strong man type.
Yeah,
and I think that's part of the reason why he went and wants to go back and get his child's rabbit doll or whatever it was, because he didn't want to be seen as a weak father. I think. I mean, regardless, I'm just like you guys. I'm like, don't turn around. Oh, why have you turned around? Why have you done that? What's the point? And then interestingly, when there's a lull in the film, which is very much required, I think, in order for all of us to gather ourselves together, when they go to the quarry, which becomes much more relevant at the end of the film, and the men just like scream into the air, reminded me a lot of as Ruben Östlund made a film called Force Majeure, which has very similar themes, and it also has two men screaming on top of a mountain, and I think there's a lot of sort of repressed male rage in that, and I think that sort of serves as an explanation as to why the man's not willing to go a lot of the time, and it kind of goes between that. And actually, another criticism I have of the film is that the mother is kind of, at least sort of the last quarter of the last third of the film, she's kind of willing to accept help from the Dutch couple, especially towards the end when they try and escape in the car, and then the Dutch couple find them, and they sort of like, when the mother is a bit like, oh yeah, let's just accept their help. I think my criticism is that she's kind of made to, or she's written to be like, or like forced into taking a positive spin on it, rather than what she was the entire film, was like afraid of this couple, and rightly so.
Yeah.
And I think it's another interesting part about the film is that there's so many visuals kind of like sear on your mind as well. Like, I think one that comes to mind immediately was that is of the Dutch man who I think watches through the sort of the bedroom window of I think the Danish couple are sort of shagging at this point, and you see the sort of the face sort of loop. That's just a horrible image, and it kind of sears in. But it's but again, it's literally because I liked it because I can see all the sort of psychological motivations. I do agree that a lot of the time I was just like, don't say yes, you're an idiot, you're stupid, and even up to the final count. And I think there are a lot of things that can be looked into that. I do think the main comment is kind of middle class politeness personally, and that kind of that unwillingness to say no under any circumstances, and to a certain extent is quite unrealistic, but I think it kind of works for the tension. But as I say, I think there should be a bit of relief, or more points of relief.
There's no relief in that. It just gradually gets
No.
worse. It's starting, like, spoilers. There's a scene where the kids are dancing. I don't know if we've mentioned that, like, both sets of parents got a child each, haven't they?
Mm.
And the boy isn't able to speak because he doesn't really have a tongue. Is that right? And they come up with some excuse why, some medical thing that why he can't talk. But anyway, that scene is, I think, where it starts to get more and more miserable. And I think from then on, and it's probably about 40 minutes, I think I wrote. I think from there on, it's just a really unpleasant film that I would never watch again. And I really wanted to know really why Larry really loves this film, because I was wondering if there's something wrong with him.
Okay.
But he's not here to defend himself at the moment, so
well, I think I could see why Larry likes. I mean, I like this one to a certain extent. I think also it's very different from the kind of usual beats of a horror film. To the point where it has such a depressing ending. I mean, again, probably one of the most horrible endings I've ever seen in a film, or definitely in a horror film.
Martyrs is up there.
Martyrs is up there, but the thing is with Martyrs is that I don't really treat Martyrs too seriously, mainly because I thought the ending of Martyrs was really, really shit. So it kind of, the horribleness of Martyrs is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of wiped away by its
the stupid ending.
Yeah. Whereas with this, the ending really worked for me, but it's just horrible.
Well, I think if I didn't have kids, I might be able to enjoy it a bit more. But having children and being in that situation, that I would never have put my kids in anyway.
No.
And then everything that happens, I don't even think we should spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, because it does have it's not a twist, is it? But it's just fucking horrible. Just an horrible ending. So I don't think we should give that away too much. But the whole thing right up to the very end is just really unpleasant. And they seem to, when the nice dad catches on to what is actually really going on, when he finds that room with all the kind of newspaper cuttings or whatever on the photos, aren't there? There's lots of photos of couples they've met before, and there's a lot. And I mean, a lot that they hadn't been caught. So I found that a little bit unbelievable.
Well, yeah,
Um,
because surely this couple have just told their friends that they're going to visit these people, and then surely when they don't show up at work or whatever, there's a postcard
Yeah.
that says the address and everything on it.
yeah, so
So-
there's evidence. There's evidence, unless they move away, or I don't know, but that you would have thought there'd be a fair bit of evidence
Mhm.
multiple
Yeah.
times.
I mean, possibly. I mean, it's interesting because I read again. I was sort of read an interview with the director, and he sort of talks about that slightly. He sort of he sort of said the reason why there's no like police or authority or anything like that is because he wanted to show like evil in an almost mythological way, in a kind of sort of, this is pure evil and exists outside of reality. In some cases, he's a very intelligent guy actually, from the interview anyway. But you're right, it's kind of but to be honest, that didn't really bother me. So I suppose because it's like there are lots of like serial killers who don't get caught, if you know what I mean. I mean, maybe these serial killers didn't really cover their tracks, to be honest. But there's a kind of mystery there, and there's a kind of there's almost a reality to it, because you know there is no happy ending, and it's kind of, it makes it more gruesome. And you think of all the you know, all the times when people didn't escape from horrible events, which isn't covered as much in cinema, and that kind of leaves you with a sort of a kind of leftover dread that sort of follows you. I mean, after the film finished, I texted Larry immediately saying, "What the fuck have you done to me?" Because I was just like, "Oh God."
Well, I honestly think our main features need to be a bit more jolly than that. maybe leave you with some hope, and maybe even enjoy it. And it just didn't at all. And it's like, I don't even really want to speak about it in some ways, because I can't find anything really positive within it. Oh yeah, it's, you know, it's well made and it's a story, but did it make me feel great at the end of it? No, I didn't want Jess to watch it, to be honest.
But
so,
you know, I suppose it depends on what you want out of a sort of film experience, really. I mean, I liked it because I liked being, in some way, obviously it's a very challenging film, and I think in a, you know, in an industry that likes to follow the formula, that likes to, you know, hit the same beats over and over again, it can be quite refreshing, albeit in a very tense way, to have those systems challenged, essentially. So it's a sort of a new experience.
I was engaged the whole way. Don't get me wrong. There was no looking at the phone really. There was, you know, I was watching it, I was into it, but it just made me feel sad and empty and untrusting of people in general, really.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like me to a T.
Well, I really want to know what Jess thinks, because you watched it with Big Shane, didn't you?
No, I was sat here watching it on my monitor while Shane was doing stuff, and he kind of was watching parts of it, and then it got to that ending scene, and he was just kind of stood behind watching it, and then he was like, "Don't look," and I was like, "Okay." So I was looking away, and I could kind of see from the corner of my eye, and then he was like, "Don't look." Still don't look.
What bit was this? What bit was
car.
this? Oh, okay.
Yeah, at the end. And then I could finally look again. And then he kind of stood and watched that entire ending with me. And then afterwards he was like, "What's wrong with Larry?" He was like, "I feel sick now." So he was like, "He is effed up."
Like, what is wrong with Larry?
What are we talking about? It's like Larry made the film.
He made us watch it.
Yeah. So, Larry, do you have therapy? If you don't, why not get therapy? Because you got issues. Like, yeah.
Oh, dear.
It just, I don't know. I just found it very dramatic, the whole film. Like, there were times where nothing was happening, and then all of a sudden you've got like this loud dramatic music, like horror music, over scenes where nothing is happening, and it's like, okay, they're trying to make this some sort of like psychological thrillery thing going on. And yeah, I just I don't know, the couple that were, not saying no to anything were just making me angry because I was like, you're stupid. Like, just keep driving. Also, like when someone tells you that they lied about their job, they're unemployed, they don't believe in working, run.
Yeah, run.
Like, why are you still there? Like, the man has just stolen your money because you've paid for dinner. And I also really want to know, their babysitter, right? What does he get out of this?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Like, what role does he actually play in this? That's what I want to know.
Well,
Yeah.
it was interesting with that as well. Again, I didn't really think about it as I was watching it, but again, in the interview, it was interesting that he because in the film, for people who are listening, they sort of invite babysitters to look after the kids. Like last minute, they didn't realize that the Danish parents didn't realize that they're leaving their kid at the house with this babysitter. They didn't know, it's essentially a black man who is babysitting them, and it said in his interview that that is very deliberate because the middle class couple didn't want to be politically incorrect or anything like that, so they didn't. So it's another way of almost getting this couple not to question or just to say yes. Say yes constantly. And I think that's sort of the motivation behind it. And again, I find that quite interesting. I mean, I do agree. I was watching it the whole way through saying, why are you doing this? What possible reason could you have not to get back on the boat? I mean, the fact that they went to the couple in the first place, baffles me entirely. But I think it still is a testament to that kind of I don't know, that extreme politeness, I suppose. I mean, at the end, it's like without giving too much away, the Danish couple are like, well, why are you doing this? And the Dutch people are like, because you let us. And I think that's quite a kind of indicative of that they don't the film doesn't reveal their motivations, the psycho's motivations much, but that's quite clear in some ways, in that it's almost like it's a game to this Dutch couple who just want to see how far they can push, and obviously the most successful ones are the ones that do say yes all the time. But yeah, so it's I sort of agree and disagree in some ways. It's sort of, but yeah, you're right. It is frustrating. It's a constantly frustrating film. Yeah.
Should we rate it? Because I don't want to give away the ending at all.
Sure.
We can. I'm going to give it 6 because it is well made. It did keep me engaged. It just left me feeling generally unhappy, and I've watched a lot of Hellraiser since to cheer me up. I've been playing with this an awful lot as well.
Is it the Rubicon they call it, or what do they call it?
Wow, I can't remember what they call it. It's the box, isn't it? But yeah, but yeah, it just left me feeling empty and sad, and as a parent, absolutely disgusted that they let this happen. Horrible. So, Jess, 6. We'd have got more if it had a happy ending. You know what I mean? That's what I wanted, a happy ending. If they just changed the end, I'd have been well happy.
Probably say a 5. Wasn't really my thing. It was shot well. It looked nice. But that's kind of it.
What are you going to give it, Ewan? Come on.
Well, to shift it, I'm probably going to give it 8.5, actually.
Okay.
Because I think, I mean, as I say, I wouldn't watch it again, but I think most of it's good. I think it's written very well. I think it's the performances were directed quite wonderfully, as and as you say, the visuals, it's quite sort of disturbing, the visual. I mean, especially when you've got certain shots that sort of stick in the mind, as I say. It's tense from the very beginning, and There's even that shot. I think it's like a Steadicam or handheld shot of him trying to find the doll in Italy, and even that's a bit creepy in some ways, and you're wondering how that's gonna develop. And as you say, Jess, the kind of the sort of operatic music when nothing's happening.
Mhm.
I actually, I quite like that. It reminded a bit of some Kubrick films. I think it's that kind of build up energy because I think even the mundane shots, that there's something weird about them, and I think it's that I think he's trying to craft that sense of uncertainty. The director, I think he's trying to sort of try to look at the layers underneath, which I think the parents are trying to do the whole way through the film. So I think it's very well made, but I wouldn't watch it again. So 8.5, yeah.
About 6 bonus. Yeah. Not for me again.
Mm-mm.
I've watched it twice now. That was enough. All right, shall we have a trailer pick? Is that all right?
Sure.
See if we can cheer us up.
Oh, you bastards! Why are you torturing me like this? Why?
Okay.
Good day. Hey, be home by dinner.
I love you. Good morning, Mr. Fielding.
Morning, Catherine.
And here are your daughters, Angela and Catherine. It's about 7 hours ago, and that's the last information we have.
Catherine!
Angela?
If you can hear this, we love you. Please come home.
Hey, you found her? What are you and Catherine doing out there in those woods?
You were just walking and walking. That's all I remember.
Angela, can you tell your dad how long you were gone?
A few hours.
Baby, you've been gone 3 days.
Okay.
So
I'm looking
what was
forward to
that?
this
Was that
one.
Exorcist the Believer? Exorcist Believer.
Yeah. So, Exorcist Believer, Angela and her friend Catherine disappear in the woods, only to return 3 days later with no memory of what happened to them. I'm a little worried this trailer's given everything away.
Yeah, it's
what
possible.
I've seen.
Um,
Because, yeah, it does show you a lot in that trailer.
yeah, I mean, it looks very similar to. I mean, it's directed by David Gordon Green, who also did the recent Halloween sequels. It looks
Which
to be
I like.
going. What?
Yeah, I quite like those.
Yeah,
The way they're shot.
I'm all right. I haven't seen the last one, but I thought the first two were okay. But you can see that they're doing a similar thing with The Exorcist here. I actually think it looks quite good, but you can kind of see that they like how Halloween brought back Laurie Strode as a sort of old woman. They also brought back the Exorcist mother, Chris, from the first Exorcist film, to kind of overlook this new sort of dual exorcism that's going on. But it looks pretty good, and I think more people might flock to it because of the recent death of Billy Friedkin.
It's a direct sequel, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's
to
a
the
direct
first
sequel.
one.
Yeah, it's the first one, much like how Halloween was.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or not, but it looks fine. I mean, I can't imagine it, but it's weird because I mean, the first Exorcist film, I haven't seen any of the other Exorcists, but to me, the first Exorcist film is like more than horror in some ways because it's directed in a very specific way. It's almost artistic, or it is artistic in the way it's directed. That when you watch a trailer for this film, which is basically trying to, recapture some of the former energy, but it does it in a very because I don't think Billy Friedkin saw The Exorcist as a horror film strictly, even though it obviously is, but I don't think he saw it as a horror film. Whereas David Gordon Green clearly does see Exorcist a horror film and goes fully into it. But it looks quite scary. It looks quite entertaining. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think it looks all right.
Oh, I can't wait. There's a few films coming out. Nun 2. It's only because I've been to cinema twice in the last 3 days. My House Cobweb, Nun 2. What else was it? Oh, Five Nights at Freddy's. There's a lot of good stuff coming out. I say good stuff. I'm hoping it is.
Yeah, I haven't watched the trailer for Nun 2, so I don't really know what the story is.
It looks okay. It looks the same. Just a nun doing nun stuff. All she does is strangle people, pretty much. She grabs them. She creeps up on them, grabs them by the neck, blends in with the background normally, and then grabs him by the neck. That's kind of the cycle.
Just none things.
None
things.
stuff.
Hashtag none things.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to that one. So, should we move on to what we watched in the last couple of weeks?
What have you been watching?
No, seriously, what have you been watching?
I might change that one day. That one I've had that for it's over 3 years old now. Incredible. 105 episodes. What have I been watching? Loads. On Friday, I watched Talk to Me. When a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand, they become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far.
You busy tonight?
You want to turn, eh?
My mum leaves at 9.
So you're 10.
Where'd you get it from anyway?
Apparently it was the hand of someone who could connect with the dead.
I heard it was the hand of a Satanist. The other hand's just out there.
White people shit, man, I tell you.
All right, let's do this! You know the drill. Say, talk to me.
Talk to me.
Right. What did I make of this one? So I went with my oldest son, Ollie, on Friday. To pretty much not many people in the cinema at all. Quite surprised at. It's good. I've heard a lot of people say positive things. I think it's your normal kind of teeny. They look teeny, don't they? How old are these? But they're 18, 20.
Yeah, 17, 18, I think. Yeah.
So the stuff they do well with the kind of hand scenes are amazing. It really gets you, and there's some really have you seen it, Ewan?
Yeah, I have seen it.
The violent scenes actually had me looking for a 15, especially with the young lad, had me looking at my son. He's looking at me, and I was like, "Oh God, it's quite brutal."
Yeah, I think those are the best scenes in the film.
Yeah,
I think they're directed very well. I mean, my problem with it is that I think the best of the film is probably in the first 20 minutes, half an hour.
There's a lot of filler I found. Like the pacing was a bit.
Yeah,
I'm getting a little bit bored at times.
Yeah, I felt the same, and I was sort of I feel like it was. I mean, I really like the two directors and I like how it's. I like to a certain extent how it's written, but it does sort of feel like a first film effort to me, because I feel like it was clearly trying to scrabble for stuff after the premise was covered, and it's a good premise and it's a good execution of the premise. But after that, you could kind of see that they were struggling to figure out, as you say, how to fill.
It was to get it to an hour and a half when they probably could have done it in 45 minutes. But we know there's going to be a sequel to this, I would have thought. Without a doubt, it's kind of left that way, isn't it?
And it might be superior because I do think the directors are good, and I feel like they will go on to do better things. It's just I think that this was a sort of first film effort, a good effort, but I look forward to seeing what they do.
Yeah, Jess, I think you should go and watch this one. I think it's right up your street.
Yeah,
and I think Shane could cope with it. I would have thought.
Yeah,
it is. It's just. I've seen some.
He won't
great...
tell you to look away.
I've seen some I went. Smile was a good film. I enjoyed The Black Phone. There's been some good horror, not amazing horror, but in the last years, stuff at the cinema that I've really enjoyed, and like that was good. It wasn't, although it was stretched out a bit. It was still an hour and a half, and it was doable. If it had been 2 hours long, I'd have been. I don't think they would have got that far, but the only issue I had was the main actor, the girl. I can't remember what her name was now, but like I found her quite annoying.
Yeah,
like her voice, the way she spoke at times. And...
All right, her voice. Sorry, I don't know.
I think she. I don't know. She was was she English, British? She had
Australian,
like
I think.
She was Australian.
Well, it's an Australian step film, so I can.
Yeah, but I couldn't work out with her what. It was a bit. I found her quite annoying, but let's not give too much away. So you should go and watch that, Jess. What else have I watched? I won't show a trailer for it, but I did watch Beau is Afraid, which I loved.
Oh, that surprises me. So you really liked it, did you?
So good. And there was a bit at the end, and I can't even put my finger on it now what it was, and it was like it kind of made sense, this journey he'd been on. And it totally made sense. I can't pinpoint it now because it is like 3 hours long and it's a long journey. But he's so good in it.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix.
I don't know what to believe in it. I still don't know what was real, what isn't. It's just so good. Now, I like the other directors' films as well, like Hereditary, Midsommar, but this is just it's different, and it is scary at times. But I could relate to it. That journey he'd been on, I could definitely relate to. So, yeah, that was a 10 for me. I can't believe I sat there for a 3-hour film.
It does go by. It's an interesting one because I mean there are some points in the middle where I suppose it drags slightly, but it is an incredibly quick 3 hours, and you could be, I think, because you're so transfixed by what's going on and you're so confused by it, and I mean in my mind it's like a 3-hour nightmare, and that's kind of how I look at it, sort of a 3-hour nightmare of a sort of 50-year-old virgin with social anxiety. It's kind of that sort of a level to it. I think I saw it twice at the cinema. I'm not sure if I prefer it to. I definitely prefer Midsommar, but I think it's on par with Hereditary. I think it's certainly one of the most interesting films that's been made this year. Although for some reason I expected more from it. I don't know why, and I can't really pinpoint why I expected more from it, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I'm confused by it. Like, I don't know if his mum was alive or not. I still don't know. I think she was, but she might not have been. I don't know. I don't know if any of that stuff at the end was real at all. Like when he goes back to his home, and why he was living in that other place in the first place. It doesn't. I don't know what's real in it, but it's a great watch. So it's all down to interpretation. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's also another. I mean, I did pick up things the second time round as well. So it's a film that is constantly unravels the sort of more you watch it. And I think it's a very good effort from Ari Aster, and you can see how great a filmmaker he is. I mean, again, I think I prefer Midsommar, but I think this is a great experimental effort from him.
I like Hereditary the most of the three of them because I think that is a horror film. I wouldn't say Midsommar is, and I definitely Beau is, Afraid. I wouldn't say that's a horror really. Not out and out.
No.
So so Hereditary's a good one, but will we get a director's cut of Beau is Afraid? Is it going to be 5
10 hours long? Yeah.
Right, so I'll talk about. So I've been making my way through the Hellraisers. I do own them all. So I was going through. In the last week, I've watched. It's been quite nice because I'm finishing work reasonably early, and in the evenings I've dropped football a bit at the moment, not coaching as much. So I've had some spare time. So I did Hellraiser 4 Bloodline, and 5 and 6, 7, and I managed to finish the remake, which I really like. So Hellraiser 4 Bloodline.
Centuries ago, a toy maker set out to build the perfect puzzle box. A gift that would bring enchantment to all who possessed it. He never dreamed that this simple toy was the key to the gates of hell.
Oh my god.
Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
Now, centuries later, a scientist has unlocked its secret. And the battle for the future of mankind is about to be fought across the boundaries of time. Welcome to Oblivion.
Amazing.
Really jumping
Get
between
in.
genres there, aren't they?
Mhm.
So you had sort of
I-
period drama, you had sci-fi.
There's a lot of period drama in it that's really good, and then you get the sci-fi stuff, and it starts off very sci-fi. Let me just read. Our listeners won't know what the fuck's going on otherwise. So, Hellraiser 4 Bloodline. In the 22nd century, a scientist attempts to right the wrongs his ancestor created, the puzzle box that opens the gates of hell. So basically, this strange guy asks this puzzle box maker to make a puzzle box, and they do some kind of ritual, and the puzzle box literally can open the gates of hell. And that gate, I think, can only be closed by the last bloodline doing something. So it does start very period drama. I don't know, 200-300 years in the past, and it ends up in outer space with the great grandson of the puzzle box maker trying to close the gate. And I think it's great. I think Clive Barker was still involved at this point. Every scene that Bradley's in is amazing. There isn't many other Cenobites at all. But it was my fault. I was really surprised how much I actually like this, and I think it's not got a great rating on Rotten, but I'd be up there giving it 7 or 8 boners all day long. But you get to the next film, which I'll pick up on in our next episode, and they do gradually get worse and less Cenobite involvement, because I don't even know if they're Hellraiser films. I just think some of the future ones might have just had Cenobites bolted onto it, Hellraiser bolted onto it last minute, because they don't seem that way. So I really like this film. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it, because it's fun, and I think this film ends it. There should be no more Hellraisers after this film. So, but there are. I own 11, so there's a lot of them. Yeah, it's great fun. Last thing I'll talk about is, I won't show a trailer, but I went to see the Meg 2 this afternoon. I went to see that at 1:30 today, so not still in my mind. I took my 10-year-old with me to see it, who hadn't actually seen the Meg. And when I told him I was taking him, because I don't want to go. Because what do you mean don't want to go? My dad took me to see Jaws when I was like 4. Why would you not want to go? But we went. We had fun with it. It's a silly film, isn't it? It's Jason Statham. There's a lot of silliness. I really liked it, actually. There were some boring bits. It's at least a couple hours long, but it doesn't take itself seriously. And it's all right. I think for a cinema experience, we paid £6 each to go and watch it at View, and it was fun. So I'd recommend it. If you want a few hours out, go and watch The Meg. Lots of sharks, giant octopus. It's in the trench. Have you seen the first one?
I've seen the first one, and it was
similar bits in it as well. Very much.
Because when I started working for Culture Whisper, one of my first assignments, actually, my first reviews was to cover the Meg. But they held it at one of these like big like PR organized events. I mean, not too massive, but it was an event in London where they had a screening of the film at a sort of outdoor swimming pool situation.
Oh,
now on the face of it, that's a great idea. It's a great PR idea and everything like that. I think it's something Lido. You know, it was quite nice. Basically, chairs by the pool as you're sitting on the screen watching the Meg, which is obviously a ridiculous film. But they didn't take into account that it was British summer, you know. And about halfway through the film, it just pissed down with rain, just like on all of us. And we're just they sold ponchos and stuff, but I didn't think I'd need one. It was just like it was an awful experience. Kind of. I mean, the Meg. I thought the first one was fun. I thought,
it is what it is, isn't it?
It is what it is. Yeah. But I don't have much urge to see the second one. The only urge I do have is that it's directed by Ben Wheatley, who's fun. Who's done lots of indie stuff in the past, but he's been moving more into mainstream stuff. He did a Rebecca remake recently, so I suppose I'd be intrigued just from that point of view.
I think you might enjoy parts of it. I think some parts would bore you, but I think for a cinema film, it's fun. I don't know if I'll watch it again, but yeah, it's good. The sharks are good. I think the special effects, I don't know. They could have done with spending a bit more money on them, I think. But yeah, but there's lots more. I watched both Wicker Man in the last few weeks. I watched Barbarian again. Evil Dead Rise. There's loads. So what have you been watching, Ewan? Enough of me.
Well, I mean, I suppose in the past 2 weeks, Barbenheimer happened. So, Barbie and Oppenheimer at once. I was very lucky to get sort of press screenings for both of them, almost last minute, because there was just such an overload of sort of requests for them. And I thought they were both very good. I personally prefer Oppenheimer to Barbie. I mean, it's very weird comparing the two because they're completely different films. But I think in terms of, and it's funny comparing them. Because on the face of it, you'd sort of compare them in terms of importance. Because Oppenheimer is about the nuclear arms race and about how we're likely to destroy ourselves in the future because of everyone having nuclear weapons and all this, that, and the other. But then when you watch Barbie, obviously it's not about nuclear weapons, but it's about the sort of, feminism and modern feminism specifically, and how, and sort of a journey through female empowerment, especially in sort of politically over the last few years. And I think that's also very important. So it's weird it's almost like feminism versus the nuclear arms race in some ways, but they're both brilliant films. I would obviously see Barbie if you want to have more fun at the cinema. Oppenheimer is very much a kind of leaves you on a very depressing and sort of leaves you filled with dread, which I kind of liked, because I liked how, Nolan's great at sort of building that, and I think it is his most
would that end up on my horseshit list or not?
I don't think so, because I think even though it ends, I suppose it's ambiguous, the ending, but it's kind of it's still quite a depressing ending, but you're not tense throughout like in Speak No Evil. It's kind of but it's a very fast film. It's a 3-hour film, but there's lots of talking, there's lots of discussions around tables, but it's very, very entertaining, and I think Cillian Murphy sort of nails it as the central performer, as Oppenheimer himself, and I find it interesting, especially after Tenet, which I didn't like very much. I thought it was okay, but the problem I had with Tenet is that it's sort of there's not enough character in it for me. There's not enough character development, because the main character is literally called the protagonist, which really annoys me. But I feel like Nolan kind of makes up for all that with Oppenheimer, which is so character led. and you're really in sort of multiple minds about Oppenheimer himself, because you're in as many minds about him as you are about the creation of the atom bomb. In the same way that the atom bomb was originally being developed because they're fighting against the Nazis, because the Nazis were going to create one apparently, and then the Nazis sort of declared surrender, and yet they were still working on the bomb and decided to bomb at Nagasaki. So there were all these, horrible ethical issues, which I think only someone like Christopher Nolan can tackle with any kind of nuance, I suppose. A lot of people have criticized the script, and I kind of see that because Nolan's scripts are very expositional, and sometimes it is just like watching like two people like discuss like the background of something. But I think a lot of that is necessary. A lot of it is very quick, but again, I think that's necessary because I think the events around those are very quick, and because it's from Oppenheimer's point of view for the most part, I think that makes sense. I mean, even I bought the script recently, the screenplay, and Nolan does a strange thing with the script where, with scenes involving Oppenheimer, he writes the descriptions in the first person. So for those who don't know, screenplays are usually written like instructions or like a cooking manual almost. So this person does this person does that, usually in the present tense. Whereas Nolan, actually, it's almost like a novel that you're reading, because it's like, I'm doing this or I'm doing that as J. wrote Oppenheimer. So he really, and it's a really sort of an exercise in perspective, the film, because you drop between Oppenheimer and his sort of antagonist character, and it's it's black and white, it's in color, it's a very visual auditory experience from that point of view. I think it's one of the best films of the year, I think. And I really enjoyed it. I saw it at the IMAX screen in the Science Museum, which was a very good,
that's cool. Yeah.
Venue. And I would advise for anyone. I mean, my parents went to see it at at the local cinema in Sevenoaks, and as much as I love that local cinema, it's a tiny screen with like a very basic sounding system because it's a very old building. I would recommend people to see it on the biggest screen and the best sound system possible, because I think you're missing out on a lot of the technical brilliances of the film. And I would say, if there was any film you're going to watch the IMAX, it has to always be a Nolan film. Even Tenet, it is worth seeing at the IMAX, even though I didn't like it that much. Just the technical brilliance of Tenet is worth seeing at the IMAX alone. And I think it's the same for Oppenheimer. So yeah, I enjoyed both Barbie and Oppenheimer, but Oppenheimer's, I think, if Barbie, I gave Barbie 4 stars and I gave Oppenheimer 5 because it's just too good. But yeah, so that's basically what I've been watching.
I did watch a trailer today for a new Star Wars series.
Yeah, Ahsoka.
Yeah, that looked pretty good on the big screen, but is that coming to Disney soon? It didn't really say.
Yeah, it's coming out, I think, on the 21st of August, I think.
Right, so that's not long.
I'm a bit sort of flat out with Star Wars stuff now. After the first episode of season 3 of The Mandalorian kind of didn't...
I don't think I've seen the third series. Yeah,
I thought seasons 1 and 2 of Mandalorian were very good. And then Book of Boba Fett came out, and that was rubbish. And then the first episode of Mandalorian set up with the premise that because you definitely have seen Book of Boba Fett, haven't you? And then you watch the first episode of season 3 of Mandalorian, and you're like, I don't know what's going on because I didn't see the Book of Boba Fett, which was rubbish. And it did what Assassin's Creed 3 did. Sorry, I won't get into it, but it's but yeah,
that's the best game, isn't it?
I think Assassin's Creed 4 was pretty good. And
I really enjoyed Assassin's Creed 3. I think that was the only one I finished.
But I think it didn't make sense to me because I didn't get the expansions of Assassin's Creed 2, which is very vital to understanding the story of Assassin's Creed 3. So I just had Assassin's Creed 2. I just played that, didn't get the expansions. And then I played Assassin's Creed 3, and I had no idea what was going on because the story points were all covered in, I can't remember what it's called now, Brotherhood or something like that. But that's what annoyed me. And it was a similar case with Mandalorian, where it's like they expected you to watch the spin-off even though it was rubbish. And they had a secret Mandalorian episode within Book of Boba Fett, and because I didn't watch that, I didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't want to watch anymore because I feel like I was tricked, I was conned, conned by the sort of Disney machine. I mean, I'm getting annoyed by all these series now, but so I'm not that excited by Ahsoka, to be honest. But yeah.
Jess.
I've watched things. Couldn't tell you what. I've watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Oh, nice.
That's the one thing
I haven't seen that yet.
Watching.
It's on Disney Plus now, isn't it?
Yeah, it came out this week, I think. That was an emotional roller coaster. It was an odd
It's the
film.
last one, isn't it? It's the last one.
I think so.
Is it? Has Iron Groot got bigger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in this one.
Okay.
But it's a very odd film. That's all I'll say.
I need to see that. I was thinking of getting Disney anyway for a month or a month or two, because I wouldn't mind watching this new Star Wars series after. I know Alex would like to watch it. So.
I mean, I've watched all of the Star Wars series. I have retained no information. Couldn't tell you what happened at all in the last Mandalorian season. Can't remember at all. I feel like I'm going to have to rewatch all of it again before anything new comes out. But then it's the same with all the Marvel stuff as well. Like all these different series coming out and then all these new films that are coming out. It's like I don't remember anything that happened in the series I watched 2 years ago. So yeah. And then we've been playing a game called It Takes Two, which is a very fun game on PlayStation. We've been playing it. A couple years, I want to say now, maybe. But yeah, very good. You have to work together to solve things, and it's a very fun game. And I'm determined for once in my life to actually finish games that I start. So this is going to be my first one on my list that I finish completely. So, and then I started God of War Ragnarok as well.
Is that what's that on X? Is that on PC?
PlayStation playing it.
Okay.
I mean, that's a game. I mean, you said about finishing games. That's a game I bought it when it came out. So what? November last year. Still haven't finished it. I'm determined to finish it in the next few weeks or something, because it's just.
Yeah.
I think the minimum story time is like 25 hours or something, and I think often after about 15 hours, I play less and less of it. Sometimes because it gets harder and harder, so I'm like, oh, I'm not motivated to kill this boss, whatever. But yeah, I'll see if I can get in the next few weeks.
That's the thing. I've played so many games that don't have a start and finish. It's kind of just like Stardew Valley and those types of games. Like you can't really complete them; they just keep going. And I kind of feel like I need to play some games that actually I can complete and then be like, "Yep, I've done that now. I can move to something else." But, yeah.
Well, there was a big update the other week on Dying Light 2, so I kind of, because I'd finished it anyway, so I jumped back into it, and it has changed an awful lot, and there's been some big updates on there as well. So I've been playing that again, and I think Alex has got it, my son, so we've been playing that a bit together, so that's been good. I have got the Gollum film to start game to start playing, but I've heard it's really bad.
A lot of people, a lot of slating
really bad, and I love the Lord of the Rings games, but I've kind of held off, so that's where I am at the moment. So next week or week after, a couple of weeks time, are we okay to do Evil Dead Rise?
Yeah, if it's available on demand now.
See, I own it in 4K, obviously.
Oh, well, I mean, if you own it in 4K, then it'll be out.
Yeah, I think you can rent it, but I don't know if it's out yet. Probably on Internet Plus, I would have thought, Jess.
It is available. It is available on.
I think
usual stuff like Prime and Apple and stuff like
that. So I think that'd be worth doing a bit more. Again, it's quite brutal in parts, but it's a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind seeing it again.
It'll probably do quite well as well, because our previous Evil Deads have done quite well.
Amazingly well, like in the thousands. I think the 2 or 3 we did have probably had 50,000 views, which is quite a lot. This will probably get 3 views. So
thanks,
people
Larry.
don't want to hear it. People don't want. Yeah, and that's literally Larry going.
He's not even here.
No, so Larry, you're sick in the head for like anyway.
You've got issues.
So you got issues.
Go to
and then,
therapy.
Yeah, you dump this on us and don't even come here because you're in the big smoke or wherever you are doing what you're doing. Andy said he'd come on here and put some comments on, but he hasn't been on at all.
Where is he?
Where's Larry? Where's Wally? Where's Larry?
Yeah.
But now, bless him. Hopefully, he'll be back to watch Evil Dead. Right? I would have thought he's got some kind of box set or something of it. Anyway,
He's got some explaining to do.
he has got some explaining. We can do that in the next episode.
Oh, look who it is!
There he is.
So here comes. Yeah, Larry. Fucking Larry.
Yeah.
You've got a lot to answer for, young man.
Kevin Jess were definitely not just slating you, Larry.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
You're a
There he
sick
is.
son of a bitch. That's all Fucking hell, Larry. Sitting through that. That is a hot pick. It is not a main feature, Larry. Would you agree? Come on. Jess wants to send you to therapy.
Mhm. Well, we know he can feel things.
Yeah.
Apparently.
He's emotional.
Yeah.
So
he's emotional.
yeah, he would buy. I'm hopefully you've got Evil Dead Rise, Larry, ready for our next episode, and that you'll definitely be there. It'd be great if you were. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's the Bones Horror Pod. Instagram's the same. Facebook can fuck itself. If you want to email us, it's the Bones Horror Pod. If you've got any screeners and things for us, it's the best place to send them. boneshorrorpod@gmail.com. And thank you very much for listening and watching. Yeah, and we'll be back soon with Evil Dead Rise. Thanks for watching. See you later.
See ya.
Bye.